Before being able to discuss the prospects of reunification between North and South Korea, it's important to first understand the historical background of the relations between these two countries. So, during the beginning of the 1900s, Japan had total control over the Korean peninsula. However, after World War II, Japan's imperial possessions were taken away. It was then decided that the Korean peninsula would be split into two regions. The Soviet Union had control over the north, while the United States had control over the south. It was during this time that communism became a huge issue globally. So North Korea had a communist leader named Kim Il-sung, while South Korea had an anti-communist leader. Between the years of 1950 and 1953, North and South Korea were at war with one another. This war stemmed from the Cold War, which was taking place between Russia and America. The Korean War resulted in nearly 5 million deaths, and to this day, the Korean Peninsula is still divided. Tensions between these two countries have persisted, but became even more apparent after North Korea began investing in nuclear weapons.
Hi, I'm Maddie Butcher, and I'll be talking about North and South Korea's cultural differences. And as we know in our class, cultural identities are closely tied to language. And so that just even more widens the gap between North and South Korea. South Korea's ways of accepting and even inviting other cultures just permeates through their speech. Even with the heavy American culture influence, sounds of English can be found in most of the southern dialects and vocabulary, where you wouldn't find in North Korea, where the influence has not been accepted or even widely received. Western entertainment presents additional vocabulary and phrases to this. Also, Japan's words and phrases can be found as they integrated just because of the pure proximity and relations that Japan and South Korea has shared. Meanwhile, North Korea continues to isolate and insulate itself, and North Korean residents have little to no access to resources of culture and information from any other nation. For that would be outside the dominance of North Korean Big Brother propaganda hand, because they control pretty much all of their things. They even have their own Wi-Fi and like interweb. South Korea actually has double the population size of North Korea at 50 million compared to the only 25 million of North Korea. According to studies, due to diets, South Korea tends to also grow taller and live up to 10 years longer. Furthermore, although many traditional holidays and rice cake foods can be shared across the Korean border, similarities don't go much further. South Korea, in fact, South Korea is now referenced as the Hollywood of the Eastern world. With their multitudes of pop music, TV dramas, video games, they are expanding entertainment industry from within onward. South Korea is even seen freely taking part in consumerism at their every wish, just like here in America. Not having the marriage, clothing, or haircut bans and restrictions North Koreans face. North Koreans must celebrate marriages on a much smaller scale, often celebrating in restaurants. They can't wear mini skirts, can't wear a lot of the things that us here in America just seem normal. North Korea is also largely and officially atheist, and Christians actually have to flee from North Korea from persecution to the south, where Protestants and Catholics are swelling in numbers, just even more creating the divide of culture between North and South Korea. So like I said, North Korea has their own Wi-Fi. It's called Kwangyong, and it's rid of world influence and full of Kim propaganda. It's only accessible in public and educational service locations, so therefore it entices people to come and live near their embassies where they will get better Wi-Fi. So North Korea currently has 120,000 citizens inhabiting their state prisons, but most of these inmates are in there for political reasons and not criminal reasons. This should not be a surprise because even as of 2013, North Korea had one of the lowest press freedom scores, making it kind of easier to go against the grain, but with a higher penalty. Meanwhile, South Korea, characterized by their loud and proud capitalism, government backed fully by their democracy-loyal people, whose only political prisons are for anyone who expresses sympathies or support for their sister neighbor, North Korea. In fact, most words from Chinese and Japanese and even Western origin have not only been discouraged, but in recent years stripped completely from language as a whole in North Korea.
So now I'm going to talk about the political relationship between North and South Korea. The Korean War, which divided the peninsula into its North and South counterparts in the early 1950s, technically was never formally ended. Instead, the US and the Koreas signed an armistice declaring an end to the fighting. Now, however, there are talks of officially ending the war. In September of this year, Kim Jong-un became the first North Korean leader to enter the South since 1953. This marks a potential turning point in the relationship between the two countries. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has expressed interest in reunification. He believes that if the US agrees to his bid for the formal end to the Korean War, it would make a strong political statement in favor of reunification without jeopardizing South Korean or American safety. However, some South Koreans disagree. Currently, there are still over 28,000 American troops in South Korea, and if an official end to the Korean War is declared before North Korea is nuclear free, then the US would withdraw these troops while the North is still armed, which would put South Korea in a vulnerable spot. While many South Koreans are in favor of this changing political tide, others are still nervous to consider reunification as a current possibility. Kim Jong-un has said that North Korea will be denuclearizing, but his specific proposals might not be enough. During a summit meeting with President Trump in June, he pledged to permanently dismantle nuclear facilities, but he has not indicated that he will relinquish the weapons that already exist in North Korea. President Moon and Kim Jong-un have made tangible efforts to ease relations between their countries. They agreed to create a no-fly and no-hostility zones, disarm the truce village of Panmunjom in the DMZ, and they've even talked about hosting the Olympics together in 2030. It seems like the political relationship between the North and South is improving, but it's difficult to trust that Kim Jong-un will maintain his diplomatic streak and ensure that North Korea fully denuclearizes before any other progress is made.
As a reporter on economics, it is hard to ignore the Korean economy. The prospect of a united North and South Korea seemed unlikely until now. Due to the amount of severe economic sanctions placed on North Korea, reunification has seemed like a near impossibility. However, due to a change in global politics, including a summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and the Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, recent elections in South Korea, and efforts of the global community to normalize relations between the isolated nation of North Korea and its neighbors, has brought hope of reunification. The reunification of these nations would have a massive impact on the global economy. North Korea has become one of the world's most isolated nations, prioritizing self-reliance and militarization over all else, whereas South Korea has embraced the free market economy. Over the last 2 decades, North Korea's economy has seen very little growth, while as South Korea, on the other hand, is considered to have the 4th largest economy in Asia and the 11th largest economy in the world. Both North and South Korea are equally unique for very different reasons. After the 1953 split, when North Korea emphasized isolation, South Korea did the exact opposite. The economy in South Korea is 36.7 times larger than that of North Korea's in terms of GDP. However, North Korea possesses an abundance of resources with an estimated worth of $1 trillion. According to 2017 figures, South Korea's GDP is estimated to be worth $1.4 trillion. Because South Korea has very limited to no natural resources, the country decided to shift to an export-oriented strategy. These differences are the key that could make Korean reunification possible, which would have a profound shift on the global economy.